Good evening, everybody. This is Scott DeCamp with CatchMark SportsNet. We're here in the Coach's Corner again with Montague coach Justin Dennett. Thanks for coming in again, Justin. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So we are coming off a 34-14 loss to Whitehall in the Battle for the Bell Grudge match. You guys had a stranglehold on it for 6 years, and just like in any good rivalry, you're gonna have your ebbs and flows and everything. But in that game, it was tight throughout most of it. It was 7-7 at halftime, 14-14 through three quarters, and then Whitehall just pulled away in the fourth quarter there. But what was it like, first of all, the atmosphere and just everything in the week leading up to coaching in your first Battle for the Bell game?
Yeah, it was a really cool atmosphere, being such a big rivalry and just a great setting to play in there. Both communities came out and supported, just like everyone knew they would. And the week leading up to it was fun too, and the excitement from the school and the students, just kind of everything involved really made it a special week and a special game. And it was tough and sucks that we didn't come out on top, but it's a good high school environment, and glad our kids are able to experience that.
Yeah, let's recap the game a little bit. One of the notable differences was in the rushing department. Part of that is game plan, and part of it, that they were really determined to try to establish that ground game. And I know you guys try to spread it out a little bit, but they outgained you guys 279 to 86. But they also had more than twice the number of rushing attempts. I know a lot of that has to do with the flow of the game and everything. But you had 138 passing yards to their 45. First downs were 23 to 8. Time of possession almost 28 minutes to almost 20. So statistically, they had a big advantage in a lot of areas. However, I will say, though, you had some moments early that if you could have converted, maybe that's a different complexion on that game. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, hats off to them. They outplayed us and got the win, but there were some chances early, some opportunities we didn't really capitalize on. The snap over the punter's head, and then he just booms a 50-yarder, and totally flips the field. It's just a great play by him. And then they had a fumble close to their own end zone too that we just couldn't capitalize on. So some opportunities early that we kind of let slip away that definitely changed the game a little bit.
And what does it say for your team, though, that despite maybe some of those statistical, the gap in statistics, even though I think a lot of that might have come in the fourth quarter, I think is when things might have started to spread out a little bit. But what does that say for your team that you're able to hang in there and make it close when you guys kind of came in kind of banged up?
Yeah, we were a little banged up, and I was really happy with our guys' effort. We didn't execute necessarily as well as we would have liked, but the effort was there all night, and they competed. And just kind of in the fourth quarter, a couple things didn't go our way. The first interception we threw, it was a deflection that they ended up making a nice play on. So a couple bad breaks and just a couple tough plays by us. But overall, I was really happy with the effort from our guys, and just some things we got to coach up and fix and get ready for the playoffs.
Were there any other observations you had just in maybe going back and watching the game again? Was there anything that you really took away either on the plus side or negative?
Well, we knew going in that Stratton, their quarterback, was a great athlete, and looking back on it, we kind of tried to put some pressure on him, and he really made us pay. If we missed him with a blitz, then he was able to escape the pocket, and he had some really nice runs, and so that was kind of a game changer. It seemed like every big third or fourth down he made a play. So for only a sophomore, that was a really good performance by him, and some things we probably could have done differently, but he's just a good quarterback and made some good plays.
Yeah, he was definitely an X factor in that game. Despite the loss, you guys still earned a share of the conference title. I think that's the fourth time in 5 years for your program. And that's sharing it with you guys are a state-ranked team, and the other two are state-ranked teams as well with Whitehall and Oak Ridge. Is that any consolation? And did you feel, now that you're a couple days removed from the game, does it feel a little bit better if you look back and say, we still had a pretty nice season?
Yeah, for sure. And we kind of talked about that before practice today, that, obviously this was the game that our kids really wanted. It's their biggest rival. But looking back on the season, we had one loss in conference, and we shared the conference title, and so there's a lot of positives that came out of it. But yeah, it's a tough one, and it's one our kids really wanted, so it's kind of hard to get them to see that right now.
Yeah, and of course, those two losses, look who they're against. It's two of the top 4 teams, at least by rankings in Division 4, when you're looking at Edwardsburg and Whitehall. And Edwardsburg's they're just steamrolling through everybody, and they look to be a real threat in Division 4. And then Whitehall, is a good team in its own right. But just as far as that perspective, how important do you think that is, just to kind of keep that, especially when you're talking about, young people, and it's easy to ride the highs and the lows, but how important is it to keep that perspective that you're going to have these games sometimes, and last time you had a disappointing loss, look what you did. You rebounded really well.
Right. Yeah, that's huge, and it's nice for me being new that all of my coaches have been here, and some of them played in the program, and so they share the experiences of teams that maybe had 2-3 losses, even 4, I think one had, and made it to the semifinals, so that's kind of the message we're sending the kids. Like, yeah, we lost to a couple really good Division 4 teams, but we're looking to get in the playoffs and then Division 6 be able to make a run. So that's kind of our focus.
Yeah, and looking at your schedule, you played a really tough schedule. On top of the West Michigan Conference, like we alluded to, you had Edwardsburg in the opener, and now you've got Portland in Week 9. And Portland, by the way, beat DeWitt 20-17 in Week 2, and that's the only loss for DeWitt in the last 2 years. DeWitt's the Division 3 state champion, the defending state champion, and looked like a threat to possibly make another good run at that. But just you're going on the road. Like you said, you guys have been a little bit banged up. What's the approach in that one, and what are you really looking to achieve in that game besides obviously get the victory?
Yeah, we just want to clean up some of the mistakes we made this past week. That's really our focus. Just execute a little better on both sides of the ball, fix some of our defensive techniques, just so that going into the playoffs, we're kind of firing on all cylinders. We're obviously trying to get a win this week, but at the end of the day, it's about improving and setting ourselves up for a playoff run and getting ready for that. So
yeah, and Portland's 6-2, just like you guys. They're coming off a 3-point loss to Cadillac, which was in the Division 4 state finals last year. Portland's other loss was to Lansing Catholic in a game that went right down to the wire. And Lansing Catholic, who knows? You can't put the cart in front of the horse, but that is a potential playoff opponent maybe down the road for you guys. But just watching Portland, what do you think it is that they do really well?
They're just really disciplined and physical. They're not the biggest team we've played this year, but you can just tell on film they're really physical and really good at what they do. They don't spread the ball out or do a whole lot, offensively. It's just kind of a classic wing T team that they're going to run trap and run power and kind of be downhill right away. And again, not huge up front, but just really physical. And so our guys got to be ready for that speed and that physicality and just match that in order for us to compete.
And then, just in general, how do you feel about your team right now, what they've been able to do? And like I said, a lot of things coming at them with a first-year head coach coming in, and then facing a really good team right out of the gate, and then a tough conference schedule, but really, coming through it pretty well when you look at all things considered. And I guess what are the things or qualities of this team that kind of really endear them to you the most?
Yeah, I'm really happy with where we're at right now. Obviously, we would have liked to win on Friday, but some things I like about our team is just our capability of bouncing back after this loss now. So after Edwardsburg, I really liked how we responded, and I got a sense today that we're going to be kind of in the same position. I could just tell from their attitudes. It was tough after losing to their big rival, but their attitudes are flipped now, and we're focused on this week, and so that's kind of what I like about them most, and what they've shown is their capability of bouncing back after a setback.
Any shout-outs that you'd like to give to any of the guys, maybe anyone who played particularly well? It seemed like Hayden had a really big game. The Whitehall stats I got might have been a little light on the tackles. I'm not sure, but I thought I saw somewhere else that he had maybe double-digit tackles, but he seemed like he was all over the place. And was there anyone else that really stood out in your mind that Friday night?
Yeah, Hayden really stood out. He's been great all year on both sides of the ball, but I think that was his best defensive performance. I think he had 13 tackles or so. I know there were some different numbers out there, but he was great, and you could tell they were kind of flipping their plays based on where he was, and he's playing down the line of scrimmage both ways, just making tackles. So he did a really good job. Offensively, Chase Gowell had his biggest game. He had that big 70-yard catch, a couple other big plays later too, and a nice block on Dylan's touchdown run. So he's a junior who didn't have a ton of playing time early, but with our injuries, he stepped up and made some big plays.
Yeah, that has to bode well for your future too, because he's a guy I'm sure you're going to be leaning on going forward. But in terms of Hayden in particular, the season he's had, obviously he was an All-Stater last year. How would you kind of summarize him? I know we had him as a guest on the show a few weeks ago, but what would you say about him, just about the season he's had overall?
Yeah, he's having a great season, and it's just having his experience, because being a 3-year starter and, like you said, an All-Stater, having his experience on both sides of the line is huge for us, especially with some younger guys around him. So he's not the most vocal leader or student, but he always leads by example, and he still, will coach up the other guys and does a good job of kind of setting the tone for our offensive and defensive line.
Yeah, and I was covering the game Friday, of course, and moving around the field like I usually do, getting different video clips and whatnot, and was standing next to Jason Hutton of Fox 17, and he commented, when you guys were on defense, just watching Dylan Everett, he's like, man, that kid's good, especially for someone of his frame. He was impressed with him as much defensively as he was offensively. He goes, the kid's just so smart and so intuitive, and how big has he been? Not just his physical abilities, but maybe leadership and his experience and just his knowledge of the game.
Yeah, he's kind of the same way for us. Just starting and being in those big state championship games. His experience is just huge. And like you said, this year we're playing him on defense. He starts where he didn't have a ton of experience before, but he's just so athletic that covers a ton of ground and is able to make plays, and he's very smart back there, like you said. So he's been just a pleasant surprise on the defensive side of the ball, and we kind of saw it early this summer in our 7-on-7s. He looked really good playing safety, and so that's why it's tough to take him out of the game. He needs a little bit of rest once in a while, but he's been a great player on both sides of the ball.
One thing that Coach Sigmund said after the game Friday that I thought was a nice compliment to your program was talking about how serious Whitehall took the weight room, especially this offseason. And I know they get after it pretty well, but he really attributed their effort trying to match what you guys do, and maybe not mimic, but maybe follow the model that you guys have used at Montague. And what does that mean to you, even though you're coming in here your first year, but you're in the weight room every day? What does that mean to you? You hear that kind of praise, coming from an opponent and a rival like that?
Yeah, that's a good compliment to the tradition they have here at Montague, and obviously Coach Sigmund knows, what it takes, and he's doing a great job with that program as well. And you can tell they get after it in the weight room. They're pretty tough, pretty physical kids. So yeah, it's just a nice compliment, and our kids have continued to do a great job in the weight room, and that was one thing when I first got hired here. I was really shocked at the strength of these kids, just coming from bigger Class A schools. Not looking down on a Division VI school or anything, but I was really surprised with how strong these kids were, and they got after it all summer in the weight room. So it's a good tradition and just a good program they have going here.
And that doesn't happen everywhere. And one thing that I've noticed too, and I don't know how much you're seeing this across the different programs, but like I did a feature on Oriana Balsma, the golfer on their, they just won a second straight state title, which I know you guys are excited about. I think that just speaks a lot to the school, and but I'm sure you've seen a lot of those kids in the weight room too. And how much do you think that really helps across the board? And how nice is it to see that not only is everyone getting after it in the weight room across all programs, wrestling, golf, football, etc., but just to support each other that way?
Yeah, that's huge for your athletic culture in the building. Oriana's in my weight training class, so it's awesome just to have whatever sport it is, girls golf, getting after it in the weight room. It just sends the message that that's kind of what it takes to build a championship program, and just like that culture and that work ethic. Even if it's not the biggest part of their sport to be physically strong, it just sets the tone that you got to work for it. And again, having all sports involved is huge for the athletics.
Have they challenged you to any golf matches yet? I don't know if you're a golfer or not.
I'm a terrible golfer. Yeah, we had a golf outing for our football fundraiser, and I hit a drive backwards, so I'm awful. They would all beat me.
Did you guys play Old Channel Trail?
Yep.
Yeah, because I played Thoroughbred a few weeks back, and man, I don't know if you heard much about that, but that is brutally tough. That's a tough course. So if you struggle in your golf game, that's like I do as well. I don't think that's the place you want to go. You know, so. But just any other closing thoughts on just where your team's at, and then as we really get into truly the playoff portion. I know it's week 9, but really, for all intents and purposes, we're heading into playoff mode now.
Yeah, again, you know, yes, we're coming off a loss, but so far we've had a great season, especially in the conference, and we're looking to build on that and continue to make a run in the playoffs here. And I think we're going to get a little healthier. It's looking like Owen Peterson's going to be back for the playoffs, which we weren't sure about. So that's good news. And from Friday night, we're still in pretty good shape. So, you know, just staying healthy and being able to make a run is kind of what we're focused on. Yeah, so I guess that's it.
No, that's great news about Owen.
Yeah.
You know, and just because I don't know if I was expecting to hear that news, but that's great. And I mean, I think anybody out there in Division 6 would be foolish to overlook you guys at this point. I mean, yeah, you're still having a good season, but for anyone to overlook Montague at any point is just foolish. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys might be able to do, kind of punching at your own weight finally. So, but anyway, that'll do it for us. Thanks for coming on again, Justin. I'm Scott DeCamp with CatchMark Sports. Check us out at CatchMarkSports.com. Thanks a lot, everybody.